Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
Hi, Chief Sophia. How are you?
Good. I hope I sound okay. I am
Yeah.
traveling, but I'm on major interstate, so hopefully I don't lose service. So if I start sounding crazy, please let me know.
Okay. Sounds good.
So we're talking about gender aligned roles. Where exactly do you want to go with this? Because I will tell you, I have seen no less than 15 different readers, channelers, spiritual people that I watch all of a sudden start talking about this topic. All wrong, like
Really?
completely wrong. Like what they're saying is completely and totally wrong. But I could not believe how fast that was. That now people are really
Wow.
talking about how important gender roles are. It's amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, so maybe to start, maybe we could talk about what are they talking about and what you think is maybe fundamentally wrong about their way of viewing gender roles.
Okay, so I've had the opportunity to speak with some normies, which is always super interesting. And I brought up the concept that feminine energy is from the sun and masculine energy is from the moon. And one thing I noticed is that even when you fundamentally explain with examples from the Bible, which is, basically everyone kind of knows the stories, they still fail to grasp the concept. Um, I feel like way more people are disconnected from their own personal energy than we like, at least I even conceptualize. Because when you give fundamental examples of, like, okay, well, the son never leaves. Like Jesus literally left. He literally said, "I'm going to leave you, and I will leave someone else with you." Like these are things that were said. People know, generally, if they don't know the specifics like I do, I break it down to just the general story, and people still they just it's such a different concept to try to grasp that it is something that needs to be talked about pretty consistently just to get people to kind of pick up the feeling of what it feels like. So, for example, I was listening to a tarot reader, and this is somebody I like, and she was basically like, "Oh, she doesn't like men who fundamentally can't make decisions for themselves because then you, as the female, have to make the decisions." And I was like, yikes. I don't want a man making decisions for me. I want him to be able to make decisions, yes, but I don't need him making my decisions. Like, that's insane. Why would I want a man to do that? And then she goes on, to basically say, like, um, females should be able to just kind of sit back and relax and do what they want and that kind of thing. And it's like, well, wait a second, that's not feminine energy. Now, this is someone who doesn't have children, so I understand that she doesn't have that experience to know that literally never happens. Like, there's no opportunity for a woman to just sit back and, like, oh, I have nothing to think about. That really doesn't happen. Even when your children aren't with you, you're still thinking about them because you birthed them. Like, there's no getting out of that. And so um, it was just really, like, crazy to hear her talking about this, knowing that in general it's totally against the order of how people go. I've also seen people say things like, "Oh, well, men should, like, be working and paying all the bills and doing this and doing that." And I'm like, okay, that's fine and well, but what are we doing while they're doing that? And we know, I talked to one of my Gen X friends, and we know that in the 50s, when the women were so-called staying home and all of that, that they were miserable. They were drugged up because it was just miserable to live in a 1,500 square foot house, which is like a medium sized house, and all you had to do was clean it. And then once you cleaned it, what did you do? These women had nothing to do. This gave us the whole concept of the desperate housewives and all of that, because these women just literally had nowhere to put that information. So why women like just think that that's the way that we should be, like that's okay, is it's just out of alignment with the energy. So I also heard some older women say things like, you know, what did that lady say? Um, Men are supposed to be these strong ones, and they're supposed to be this and that. And I'm like, okay, well, if the men are being strong, then what are you doing? Being weak? Like, again, I don't really understand this concept. Like, I, I know what they're trying to say, but it really is not coming off well. And so I don't think this is um, a concept that is really going to be well received by the younger people if people keep pushing this as an agenda. Like, okay, let the men be miserable, like forget about what they want to do and all of that. There's X that out. Let them focus on paying the bills. That's It's like, wait a minute now, why not let the men express their creativity that's ever since childhood been bound up? Because what is the first thing they try to do? I mean, at least in my generation, I'm a centennial. What the first thing they tried to do to the boys was, if they were rambunctious in class, they wanted to give them drugs. Like, they're like, oh well, gotta drug this one up, there's something wrong with them. And it's just like, okay, but how is that actually solving the problem? It seems like you might be creating some new issues here. Why don't we try to actually help the kids? Give them something to do with that energy. And people, that's just it, they don't fundamentally think of that. I'd much rather give my old man a task to do than say, okay, well, I'm going to do all the stuff that I want to do. I'm not doing any of the stuff that you're going to do, that I basically told you you have to do, or society told you you have to do, and you're going to be happy with that. I mean, get out of here. It just doesn't make any sense. And so that kind of feels like the general vibe out there. Women are basically deciding that we're the most important in the scenario. The men don't have a say because of patriarchy, which is not the everyday man on the street's fault. Patriarchy is not the regular man's fault. So why are we blaming every man for patriarchy when clearly it's not every single man's fault? I don't agree with that. I'm like, let certain men who have been the progenitors of patriarchy pay that cost, pay that toll. But I don't want to make a man who doesn't have anything to do with that pay the toll for it. It doesn't seem fair. And that's where, this whole discussion of gender roles comes in, because people are not being fair. They want things that are fundamentally out of alignment with equality. And I do blame a lot of that on, this whole feminist rights and all of this stuff, because again, with the patriarchy and the things that were going on, things were way out of balance. But that wasn't everywhere. And that's another, basic conversation for another time. But because I need to do some more like literal research on that. But I can tell you there were plenty of societies where women were given equal rights to men. Women were allowed to do a bunch of stuff. And so I think it's a big lie that, oh, women couldn't do anything and all of this. It's like, um, it's almost like when one part of the story falls apart, they put in another part of the story, which makes even less sense than the first part of the story. But because people don't have the capacity for holding multiple thoughts until they can figure out which one is the real thought, everything is just staying so like jumbled up that you can't get a hold on what is the truth. And I do believe that's a problem overall with even within gender roles. There, you have to be able, until you can figure out what is true and what actually feels comfortable for you, you kind of have to be able to hold multiple thoughts and say, okay, well, or I can use myself as an example. Like, I, knew that I wanted to take care of my own stuff. So that's one thought that I'm holding. I'm also holding the thought of, okay, well, the society says that the men are supposed to pay the bills. But at the same time, I'm looking at my old man and he's not doing so well. So am I going to force him to stay in this position where I can literally see that he's not doing so well, like with, the job that the career that he was trained to do is really, there's a whole nother thing, but they bought in a lot of these, I call them race warriors from below the border, and they took the job, literally took the job that he had, and so he had to go get another job, and he haven't really been able to even that out. So is that his fault? Am I supposed to blame the man for that? Like, that doesn't seem fair. So I'm holding this thought of, okay, I see what they did bringing all these people in here. It doesn't seem fair to hold him responsible for what this country is doing, but how do I, again, square that circle? Because it is quite a difficult, um, scenario that's going on. And so women are capable of doing this, though. I know that men have a much harder time of holding two convergent thoughts that are not on the same level. Like, they have a hard time with that. So I wouldn't want to make a man do that. It's just me because I mean, I have a brother, so I see that that's not really something that they're too good at. So let me do what I can do while everybody else does what they can do. That's the general principle that I took in trying to figure out where to put all of this information. And women do that well. So that's another, like, weird little thing about all of this, is that the things that women actually do well, they've somehow been talked out of doing. Like, I mean, it's really difficult to, like I said, square the circle on this, because if you want an easy life, you have to be willing to compromise. And they have basically told women never compromise on anything. And they've told men you have to compromise on everything. Again, unbalanced.
Yeah, I mean, what we are talking about is something like we've discovered, and it's like we've known it, but like I think we really discovered like the essence of the disconnection between the masculine and the feminine energies. And this
Right.
is the manifestation of that disconnection, is like we are seeing through your very wise way of living, you are providing an opening that the matrix did not want people to see. And as we're looking into that opening, we're looking at just one, the possibilities, but two, like the control, like how powerful the control mechanisms have put in place in order to convince people, hey, there's a completely other way, and it's actually completely contrary to what you have invested your whole life into doing. You have all these women and that, like, because there's layers and layers and layers of control that have solidified the gender roles. And women, in this case, women are being, at least the younger ones, but women in general are being incentivized through the what I would call the beta males, the men that have like completely lost their way, to get really cheap validation. So it's like they've been eating fast food when it comes to energy and attention most of their life. And in getting this cheap attention, they believe that obviously the man is there to serve them. But the ironic thing is, yes, you can get validation. Yes, you could get attention. But to actually hold down a man that is going to serve you is not happening anymore, because the men
Nope.
are not willing to do that anymore. They'd rather just be either incels, be alone, or just be doing like hookups or stringing on a girl along for a number of years and then just realizing, oh, like this girl's just not going to do anything. This girl just wants to be taken care of, And so it's like women are putting their lack of inner work on the man, and the man is inundated with the programming to continue to try to provide, but he can't even provide for himself. And so there's what's the beautiful thing about all of this, which I mean, it's unfortunate, but the beautiful thing about all of this is that it's breaking down. Like it's not working anymore. And so the women and the men can continue to bash their heads on the wall trying to make this programmed way work, and it's just not working. And it's not going to work. It's actually going to get worse. And as a result, relationships are breaking down. Women continue to get older and not finding a mate. Men are basically just leaving the sexual marketplace altogether and just saying, I'm not getting involved in this. And so this is what we're seeing is clear fraction, uh, um, a fragmentation and a clear divergence from what is aligned to what is misaligned. And what we are doing right now in this discussion, and obviously we're going to keep putting more energy into this, is we are breaking free from the misalignment and providing the way that is aligned. So the people out there can continue to follow the misaligned way of being, but we are finally now providing a path, an other path, a salvation, a solution for people to begin to follow. And as a result, they're going to start to be aligned, and they're going to become very attractive to their um, polar energy. So as men start to embrace, because what you're really talking about is men embracing their feminine side
Right.
and women embracing their masculine side, which is very ironic because it's like you're basically saying like that's their superpower. A woman's superpower is like being inner masculine. A man's superpower is being inner feminine.
That's absolutely correct. And if people are so unaligned with the energy that they have that they don't see that the other, everybody has both energies within them, the masculine and the feminine. We're made of both parts. And so we just have one part that's more prevalent, meaning the actual physical body parts that go with a man and the physical body parts that go with a woman. We literally have our own parts. And so if you understand that, I don't have to work really hard to be in feminine energy. I have to work much harder to be in masculine energy. And I'm much better at it because I have the feminine energy already inside. Like, I don't have to do anything with that. And it's the same thing with the masculine. So, like, I guess I just use myself as an example because I really don't know anybody else who's like this. But I always say, like, my old man, he's, like I said, he's very, very, very in touch with feminine energy. And it's a lot of people don't like it. Like, he is very, like I said, with, like, especially with our son, he is really like overboard to me, like a helicopter parent. And I don't particularly have that capacity. It's not really how I function. So people are always like, oh, where's your son? I'm like, oh, he's with his dad. And they're like, oh, well, like, is there somewhere else? I say, no, they're in the house. Like, this is what they do. They be in the house and they be together. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But people are always like, well, why don't you have him in school? Why don't you do this? Why aren't you in the house? I'm like, I have stuff to do. Like, he can stay in the house and do whatever it is. I don't, again, I don't get involved in men's business. I let men be involved in men's business. But I don't have to be over there watching them every single second, figuring out what's going on. And so as I've talked to different women about how my relationship is set up, they are very confused. They don't understand why anybody would agree to be in this type of scenario. And I understand because, again, it's totally out of however anybody else does anything else. But my position has been, and it will always be, that I would rather have a man that is able to. That way, when I have female problems, I can say to him, okay, well, I got this is going on and that's going on. And I know that I don't have to guess if he understands what I'm saying. Like, I don't have to wonder, man, did he really even understand what I was talking about? Because he has control of his feminine energy. I know for a fact that he does understand. I don't have to think, oh man, like I'm going through my cycle and it's really hard and all of this. He already understands, okay, oh, women have this crap that they go through. And that's just like me. I have this crap that I go through in my mind and it's really difficult. And so I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Now, he's not the type of person that's like, oh, I'm going to like go to the store and buy you all this stuff. And because I ain't asked for that. Just leave me alone in my space and let me, again, a masculine type of energy. Look, I'm dealing with these feminine problems. Let me be alone in my energy. I can't really do too much. I'm going to have to just sit back and let this thing that always comes, just deal with it. Let it flow and not try to, be all aggressive. But what do most women do, especially as it relates to cycles and stuff? They either try to make it go away so that they never have to experience it, with all of these birth control and all that stuff, which actually puts you more in feminine energy than anything else, and then you are like unbalanced, and um, or they just go overboard. They expect the man to like be bleeding with them. Like, you can't, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, men aren't supposed to be experiencing the pain with you. I always found it funny when people are like, oh, the man gets like birth pains, like the woman gets birth pains. I find that to be crazy. Like, why can a man feel? Why would you want to? First of all, giving birth is like one of the most painful experiences on the planet, probably. Why would you want a man to go through that? Like, it's just like when women want the men to wear the pregnancy belly. You see them acting crazy, I want you to raise your voice and say, hey, what you're not about to do is that. Like, we're not doing that here. That's what is actually more helpful. That's when you need a man to come into masculine energy. But when he's interacting with me, I'd rather him be in softer, gentler energy, because it makes it so that it's not so difficult. As a woman, especially since we can hold multiple thoughts that are different at the same time, it makes it easier for me to make a decision, because I don't have to worry about, oh, if I made this decision, is he going to have a problem with it, or is it going to be the wrong decision? Because 9 times out of 10, because he's not in this hyper masculine energy where you don't want to, oh, like in the 50s again. Oh, I don't want to say anything to my husband because he's going to hit me upside the head with the plate. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of abuse. If you're not worried about that, you're not worried about asking your man a question and getting a real answer from him, then it'll be just fine. But the problem is, again, a lot of people are outside of their proper energy. And I also think it's interesting that you said that the Matrix literally started to show out trying to say, no, 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 that's not right. Nope, you can't be in that energy. That's not how the energy works. Y'all got it all wrong. Look over here. Don't look at this, where somebody is actually giving you some solutions and some stuff that has worked for me. I mean, this has worked. Like, this has worked for me. So I'm not saying that it's the only thing that works, but most people don't have solutions. I mean, a lot of these people giving relationship advice don't have never had a relationship longer than a year, longer than 2 years. Not even a friendship. Like, some people, as soon as their friends do something they don't like, they're ready to run off. I mean, I have multiple sets of different kinds of relationships with males and females that are extremely long, because everybody knows how I am and I've always been the same way, and I let them be how they are. I don't force them to take on some personality that doesn't align with their energy, because it doesn't make sense. Like, another example of this is, um, my my best friend. Um, I've been best friends with him since middle school, like literally middle school. And, we were like cute dating in middle school. That was cute, right? Then I go to high school, and it was a different high school. So we would remain friends, and we've been friends all of this time. I spent so much time at his house. He's been at my house a lot. Like, we're just friends. So, and he was gay, but I have prayed and prayed so hard about that. And now he's married, about to have a second child. So this is the kind of thing, me and one of his other friends, we were like, because it wasn't natural for him. We know that was, like you were talking about, as a result of females being way too in female energy and not enough in masculine energy. And what's interesting about that is that his actual, he described his wife as the white version of me, which is insane, like unhinged. Like, please don't do that. But she is very much like the white. She's very aggressive, like a very aggressive female. And obviously, he's a very soft male, and a lot of people, they don't like that kind of stuff. They just have this whole problem. But as more females come into like their aggressive energy, they're able to find men. Like, it's the men are out there, they just don't want to be charged with a case, or all these other things that women do. And it shouldn't be a prostitution situation either. Like, you have to be like balanced and fair about the whole thing. So so I've been friends with him for a long time. So most of the time, if I'm like, I start dating a guy, they would be like, well, you have to stop being friends with him. I would like laugh at them. I'm like, I've been friends with him since I was 13. You want me to stop being friends with somebody because you got a problem? Absolutely not. I don't know what to tell you, but you're gonna have to figure out like what's wrong with your masculinity. My old man don't care at all. Zero. None. Because, again, it doesn't matter. Like, if somebody is like, if you're in a relationship and you think the person is going to cheat, they're going to cheat no matter what. Why would you choose that person? You have to find a person that you believe will be loyal to you. Um, and to expect for people to, give up long-term friendships because you feel uncomfortable, that's a sign of abuse. Like, the person is planning on abusing you. Because what male friends do for, this is why females should have male friends. Not ones that are like secretly in love with them, because that would be not so good, but general, male friends. And I think that is possible. I'm not one of these people that says, oh, males and females can't really just be friends and all of that. That is for extremely immature people, who have no control over their bodily functions. But if you're a mature person with control of females, and that goes on both sides. So, as a female, if you have male friends, your male friends will tell you if something is wrong with the male that you're trying to date. They can read, a man can read another man way better than a woman can read a man. And so if you, like, as a female, don't have any males in your life, this could be like father or whatever, but if you have no males in your life to evaluate the male that you're choosing, that could be lead to a huge problem. Whereas if you have to evaluate the male, so they will, like, again, back to this same example. You know, my mom and my sister, like, they don't get it. Like, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish, how I live my life, they don't get it. And so they assume that this particular, guy that I'm talking to, they think he's too much this, too much that, especially my mom. But my thing is, like, you really not in alignment with your own energy. So opinion is shaded. It's jaded because you have no problem with certain things being done, and then you have other problems where, like, okay, like, just, for example, like my old man, he's a clean freak. Like, his whole thing is he likes everything to be clean. And that's not really like, I don't think like that, because I'm like, okay, I have a schedule. And I think I was mentioning this before. I have a schedule. So in my mind, I know I'm gonna do this at this time, that at that time, so on and so forth. And so if you ask me to do something outside of my schedule, it's going to be a problem because I already have in my mind um, so when you finish cooking, you should just clean the whole kitchen, sweep and mop, and in the mind of in his mind, finish cooking and I should have been cooking so by the time so it's me and all and everything at one time because I can set aside a chunk of time and just do that. And all this stuff, like they need to know how to clean, of course, take care of themselves, all of that. But I don't want them to have a complex about cleaning where, like, again, a lot of the Gen Xers, I love them, but they're OCD about me. And I just feel like it's a little bit overboard, especially when the way that they do it. So I don't want my kids to have that complex. So I don't get on them about, oh, everything's got to be perfect. But finish eating after you've been in school all day, washing the dishes, that's a lot, especially if you only got a few minutes between the time you get home from school and the time that it's time to go to bed. Like, you only have a few minutes of personal time to yourself, and as girls, they need personal time to themselves. And that's what I try to set my, I don't want them to be repeating this same nonsense. So my mom always got a problem with that. She's like, hey, he should like give them a chance, this and that. And I'm like, no, because they need to understand that everybody is not going to be the same. Every person that they come into contact with is not going to behave the same way as I behave. There's a stark difference. And I feel like the boomers, they really don't understand the fact that it's okay for there to be a difference between the way males operate and the way females operate. A lot of boomers are extremely one-sided. They want the man and the woman should be the same. Like, they should act the same. They should respond to things the same. Go to same places, all of this stuff. And that's another part of this gender role thing that really has to be separated because if you have two people who are exactly the same, where is the variety in life? Where is the contrast? Like, you need contrast. And when you don't have contrast, meaning if you have two women, if you have a relationship where both of the people are in feminine energy, you have a lot of problems because everybody is fighting over everything, like how things supposed to be clean, how they want things done, when they want things done. It's just fighting on top of fighting on top of fighting. It's the same thing if you have two people who are in masculine energy. Masculine energy is more standoffish. So then you don't want to do that, but you don't want to be telling the other person what they should do. And then, because men don't really like getting into that, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, especially when they're in feminine energy, because females don't do that. They just get it done. Does this thing need to be done? Yes or no? Okay, I need to hop to it, whatever it is. And so when you're dealing with like relationships where both the parties are the same, you end up with a lot of fighting and a lot of it looks good on the outside because, oh, y'all go to parties together and you both kind of dress nice you know, but on the inside, you're saying people where I just saw a news article where I was putting his wife with a protein powder. Why? Why? And that's another huge part of this general is that people want everyone to be the same, just like everyone's always seen. My friends agree with me politically. I have friends that disagree with me politically. And the ones that disagree politically, I fight with them. Like I'm not fighting.
We can't hear you. I think you might be in bad reception area.
Hello?
Yeah, yeah, you were out for like a minute.
Okay.
I can hear you again.
I can hear you. Or you're gonna have to kick me out.
So I could hear you now. Now you're good.
I'm getting no. I can't hear anything
Can you hear me? Hello?
at all. So let me try leaving.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear? Yes. Okay. I was at the bottom of a mountain. I'm so sorry.
No
I
worries.
was like, oh no, I must be at the bottom.
I can't hear you again.
Oh
Oh, okay,
gosh.
now you're back. I think you're back. You muted yourself? She's driving, so, that's why the reception's a little spotty. If it doesn't work, we could just end it shortly and then continue the discussion on Friday. But, in the meantime, it is, very exciting to begin to piece together the gender roles as they should be. And one of the things that I was going to talk about, but I guess I'll mention it now, is if you study the pride, how the lion pride works, is the females are the ones that go out and hunt. They're the ones that go out and get the food, while the male is the one that focuses on protecting the pride. And now when there is a hunt that is significant, the male lion is the one that goes and takes on the big hunt, but it's the women that are from the pride that are the ones that go out hunting. Hello?
So, like, can you
Yeah, I
hear
can hear
me?
you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think I'm done with the
No
mountains.
worries.
That is so crazy. I heard what you said about the males in the lions, and that is absolutely correct. You know, without a response. But do they need to be out there all the time using that energy? No. I find that a lot of men have a limited
Right,
amount of energy available. You know, they just don't have it to be everything to everybody all the time. And I feel like that's not really that. Like girls, as someone who has girls and boys, um, girls have always have to have something to do, like something to play with, like something. But the boys, like, no, they play with what they're playing with. It's very, specific. And then when they're done, I mean, that's it. They move on to the next thing. And I really didn't have the opportunity to observe it up close until I had a boy. But now I can clearly see, like, if I have a like center's activity set up for him to do certain things, there's no he would just go from thing to thing, and he's not going to overextend his energy on one specific thing. It's going to be like, okay, I'm doing this, all right, I'm done with this, now I'm going to do this. And but girls, you have to constantly entertain them. They have to like have a lot of stuff to do, and it can get overwhelming, which is why, like, I feel like when my oldest daughter, especially when she was 4, she had 3 times as much stuff as my 4 year old, like my son does. He played with the same stuff over and over. But my daughter, oh no, she had to get a new. She was into Legos, so she had to get a new Lego set every couple of months because she done played with that Lego set. She's done with it. Now she got to get a new one. Not like, oh, let me take this Lego set and build something else. It's literally like, no, she needs a literal whole new set of to play with. But my son, he doesn't need a lot of new stuff. He gets the new stuff. He's like, okay, this is cool, but let me go back to playing with my old, stuff. And I feel like this whole push to have a lot of young people not have children early means that there's a lot of people who don't have brothers and sisters where they could observe this because it's not unobservable. But if you don't have any siblings, it might be, pretty difficult for you to see how this is. Because my brother is the same way. Like, he'll do the same thing every single day. He'll eat the same food every day. I'm like, don't you want to eat something different? Like, you want to mix it up? Like, no, like the same thing every day is fine with him, and I get it. But at the same time, I like variety, so I'm not gonna eat the same thing every single day. You know. So, um, what else were you saying? I could like to comment on some more of that stuff.
Yeah, so so there was something because the I've always felt like I deserve to be served. And as a man in this reality, to be served, like you gotta basically have like in the system, you gotta have a ton of money to be served. But by having a ton of money, you actually are most of the time to get there, you gotta serve a fuck ton of people. And I was not willing
Right,
to devote myself to the quote unquote grind of serving to people that are just not in alignment to me, to just doing like bullshit tasks, at least tasks that I believed were bullshit. But I knew that
right.
like I deserved to be served and I deserve to have women in my reality that are serving me. But what I found throughout my life is that they, even though they might have a strong attraction to me, even though they might love me, time and time again, they refused to serve. And it wasn't like a domination type of serving. It was like more of a appreciation embrace. It was more of like the girl was like, I own you now, and you have to conform to me. And I was like, no, I I don't conform to nobody. Who the fuck are you to tell me to conform to you when I believe that I know the way? And so it has taken some time to begin to start to attract women that actually appreciate the ability for the man to lead. But in doing like, it's so so going back to like the lion and the pride is when I looked into how does the pride work, it was the women of the pride are the ones that go out and hunt. I had no idea. I thought it was the lion. I thought it was the males that are the ones that go out
Oh,
and hunt. But instead, it was actually the female lions are the ones that go out and hunt, and the males are focused on protection, and they're focused on when there's a very significant hunt, whether that be difficult finding food for some time or just a predator or a prey that is pretty challenging to take down. That's where the lion really comes in. And I think that's for me when when I read that, I was like, that's me. That's my life. That's what my
right.
life is to be. I am the lion and I have a pride. Now, whether I have multiple women or just one woman, but the woman is hunting. What does that look like in this reality? Well,
Mm,
she is out there like getting things done. Meanwhile, I am here in my domain protecting, providing, like providing the structure, the stability of the ability for the pride to even exist, to protect it, and then focus on the big things, the big hunt, the predators, the big prey. Because it's not that a man should not be, going out there and working and providing and whatnot. It's that he should be focused on the big picture in terms of like the big moves. But in order to do the big moves, it takes time. It takes time for it to come about, for it to percolate, for it to be built, for it to come about, for it to manifest. But if he's instead focused on, in many ways, just going out hunting, 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 he's going to be tired when it comes to protecting the pride. He's going to be like so consumed in his work that when the time comes to protect the pride, which is not just one time or two times, but it's constantly all the time, he's not going to be able to protect. And that's what we're seeing in this reality is men are not protecting their children, their wife, their family. Because they're so busy in their work, in serving shareholders and serving whoever it is that they're serving, that when they get home, they're just tired. They're burnt out. So who's protecting the household? Nobody. Nobody's protecting the
Yes,
household.
it's wide open.
Exactly. And that's when the misalignment comes in and just consumes everything. That's what has happened. That's what has happened is it has consumed everything. And then on top of that, the man does not have the ability to truly be doing like quote unquote big things in this reality because he's just tired. He's just tired. And
Right.
then the woman is nagging because she's at home. She has got nothing better to do, gossiping this, gossiping that, wants to keep up with the Jonesies. And so now she's extracting more of his energy. So the man is just is a slave in his own household. The woman has been taught to extract from the man instead of where she should be receiving his energy, not extracting his energy. And so that's why these families, like you look at most families, like at least in the United States, and like it's not even families. People are not doing shit. People literally think just making money is success. And the system, there's no innovation, there's no real oomph to the current reality that we're living in. There's very few people that have an umph, and it's the people that are aligned, right? It's the
That
people like you, like everything that you have been able to do is because your family life is aligned. What woman is out there doing what you're doing? Instead, they're doing readings, which nothing wrong with readings, but like you see a lot of these spiritual women that are so in their feminine, like they're spiritualists for decades. They're not doing shit.
ooh
They're not
child.
doing shit. They know all the stuff. They know everything known to man. What have they done? Nothing.
Look, you said it, not me. So I'm gonna say that it was not me that just went off on these, but it is a fact. It is the number one reason why I have stuck in the spiritual space because I could see that there was a lot of women who were misaligned, just like you said. And I knew they were misaligned because there's no reason why you should have repeat clients who are asking the same questions and haven't solved any problems. Like, why is it that if this, as women, we're so spiritual, we're the prophetesses and all this and all that, well, where are your answers at? Like, why your timing tools don't work, and if you try to say something like I alone, like maybe like 2.5 years ago when I was started working on my tarot spiral, I had said something to one of these readers like, look, I got this tarot spiral, and it actually aligns with the time properly. And the girl said in her video, she was like, yeah, sister said something about this, but I don't know if I agree with what she's saying. She didn't even actually go into why. Like, I'm like, okay, so where's the intellectual discussion? That's part of the problem with women in general is that we don't have we have to have iron sharpens iron. Women hunt in a group. They're not one woman hunting by themselves. It's a group of women. And it is extremely difficult to get a group of women together in this day and age for anything, to accomplish anything. I'm lucky enough to have a sister. And so when I need to accomplish, tasks that are a little bit and say, okay, I'm trying to do, or like my daughter is going to graduate next year. So I know it's going to be a lot of work. And so I've already told her, okay, we have to start getting ready for this graduation and the prom and all of this stuff. And so she's already gathering materials, thinking of ideas, writing stuff down so that we can be ready to accomplish thing that we have to do, next that's coming up next year. But a lot of women, again, they don't have a group of women who are there to support them. And part of the problem, the reason why that is again, women need structure. So if you had a job, like a corporate job, and you worked with a bunch of people, you would have some places to draw women from that were on your same thought process. And same thing if you went to church. Same thing if you had groups and stuff that you were in. In the 40s and the 50s and the 30s, they had groups. Everybody was in church, or they had like, events where people work on stuff that they were trying to accomplish. You see this in the Amish community, but you don't really see it in other communities because everybody wants to be a star. I said it one time before. Everybody wants to be a chief and nobody wants to be an Indian. When I come into a scenario with anybody, I'm always like, let me see how I can help. I don't go to be a leader first. I go to be a servant, and that's what you were talking about. You're looking for a woman to serve, but most women, they approach the thing as if they are the ones to be served because, oh, Cleopatra and Mark Antony, like, what are you talking about? Like, that's so insane. Oh, all these fairy tales, where the women somehow, like, but they never mention, or they never think about the women who are being served in those scenarios are actually like wicked. Like, they never take that into account. Like, oh, that was like, she was an evil queen, right? Like, she wasn't really the one that you want to be like, looking after, like looking towards as someone you want to emulate. But they don't see that part. All they see is, oh well, this woman, the king did everything she said. Yeah, but like, she was evil. Like, she was doing black magic. Like, you can't tell. That's why he was serving her, because he was under a love spell. Like, not understand how these things work, and they don't consider that until they start doing love spells themselves, so that they can keep these men under control. I.e., some famous celebrities out there who do this all the time. So as a woman, you have get your group, get your team first, and especially in this whole individualized culture, if you believe that you don't need anyone else and you can do everything by yourself, you're already destined to fail, because it's not true. You need a team. Everybody needs a team. And most people don't know how to be friends with people for a long amount of time. It's always some kind of, problem. And so, like, an example of this is my daughter. She had this girl that she was friends with at school, and the girl just had a huge problem with her. Um, for whatever reason, for one reason or another, let's say that. And so I had said to her, before you say you're not going to talk to her anymore, just try to have a conversation with her and point out, the problems that you're having, and why you think that they're an issue. So she does. She tries to point it out to her, and the girl, tries to turn it back around on her and this and that. And so my daughter finally says, I'm not going to put up with this. This is too much, And I told her, I said, that's fine. You said what needed to be said. You didn't, walk out of the situation, and so that there's confusion, you literally let her know, like, if you want to resume this relationship, this friendship, I'm fine with that, but you're going to have to take responsibility for your actions. And I said that's appropriate. But most women, that's not what happens. You have all of this bad girls club stuff, and people just want to fight, and they don't understand. You need to figure, if you can't figure out how to make it work with your friends, like, how are you supposed to figure out how to make it work with a relationship? Like, that's an automatic failure. If you can't figure out how to serve your friends, like, make sure your friends have a good birthday. If they're having a hard time, reach out to them and help them. If you can't serve your friends, how are you ever supposed to serve a man? And they don't even know where to begin. And like, in my generation, we learned this from interacting with my grandmother and her sisters, because They were the elders of the family, and so when things need to be done, we we had to help. Like we had to make sure that they were taken care of first because they were the elders, and then we could worry about whatever it is that we needed to do. Especially my grandmother because she didn't drive. So when my grandfather passed away, we had to pick up the pieces of who's going to drive her around, and make sure she can do the stuff that she needs to do. And so that's something that you learn through intergenerational contact. But if you have if you have no grandmothers, no great grandmothers, no great grandfathers to see how this is supposed to go, then you would not know that this is a part of it. It's a part of how the scenario plays out, and it's very unfortunate that so many young women don't have intergenerational situations, scenarios to learn these things. And then you have the boomers who are not teaching this stuff. So this is another issue I have with the boomers. They're not teaching the younger generation that they need to make sure that they are taken care of. They're actually in a lot of cases, the boomers are going around the desire of the parents, what the parents want the children to do, and they're literally, basically, um, doing the opposite. Like they're serving the children because the parents won't serve the children. And it's like, bro, that's the wrong answer. You're not supposed to, if I'm not serving my child, you shouldn't be serving them either. But again, you have the boomers, they're not honoring the roles. So it's a really big problem that you have to, it has to be taught to you. It has to be in you. Or you have to, as a female, make the conscious decision to say, let me make sure everyone is okay. Like, it's okay for that. Because that's another part of this weird feminism. They have taught women that everybody's on their own. So you're on your own, so everybody else is on their own. That's, again, pure insanity. We're not on our own. We have to work together in groups to make sure the stuff gets done. And it takes, and a lot of times, like a lot of my friends are actually much older than me. And so it does take that, again, intergenerational, like, behavior for you to see, oh, as a woman, oh, I'm actually supposed to be doing this. I'm actually supposed to be doing that. And if I do this and do that, then I will be able to, attract exactly what I want, find the type of partner that is best suited for me. But if you don't have anyone older, like with my oldest daughter, I, Lord, I've always been an independent person. So one of my friends told me, "Hey, you might need to like cut back on the partying," and because I was like 22 when I had my oldest daughter, so she was like, "You might need to cut back on the partying, especially like when she was 3 or 4, and like spend more time with your child." Because I had my mom was taking care of us. I just had a lot of stuff that was lined up so I could go out and do what I need to do. And that was good advice because I did need to cut back on all the excessive being out in the streets and stuff like that I need to be doing to grow my business and stuff like that. So if I was one of these people in this generation and somebody said that to me, they would curse the person out and then, oh, I'm not friends with them anymore. And this actually, like, literally happened to my this same friend. She has a daughter. She told her daughter, you're staying in my house. That's fine, because she's over 21, and she's like, that's fine. You can stay. But I want y'all to make sure the house is clean. When I come back home, I want all the toys from the kids put away. And the daughter literally stopped talking to her. And because her father had said the same thing to her by saying, make sure you kind of get the place cleaned up for when your mom gets home so that she don't have to be fussing about that, she stopped talking to the father too. And the reason was because the father had told her also that she needed to clean up the toys behind the child. Like, this is what this generation does. So I'm not even exaggerating. They cannot take any kind of criticism at all. They can't take the criticism, and that's really unfortunate because you have to be able to understand and accept when people who are wiser than you and or older than you, because I was telling people stuff that they should be doing and I was younger than them. Especially how to interact with men and stuff like that. I have always been an expert in this arena, and so I was telling them, look, I don't think you should be interacting with men like this. These same friends who were giving me advice on how to interact with my child, I was turning around and giving them advice how to interact with men, and we were both right. And the ones who are still around listen to me, and the ones who aren't around, they didn't listen to what I said. They didn't. They found their advice to me more valuable than my advice to them. And that's not an even exchange. It has to be even. So again, if you it's a red flag if a woman has no friends. That's a red flag. They don't have any friends, they're not close with family, they're out here all by themselves. That's a literal huge red flag that you should probably run, not walk away, because a mature woman is going to be able to handle the dynamics between their mother, sisters, friends, and all of that. But if you're an immature or self-centered person, you can't handle all those dynamics. It's extremely difficult, and so you gotta, again, know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And sometimes you have to say, look, I don't think this is really a good situation for me. And so that's a warning to a lot of females. Like, you don't have to, even if your mom is not the best person, you should respect her because she gave birth to you. And giving birth is difficult. Period. It's difficult. It's hard. Even if they're not necessarily a good person and you see a lot of faults in them, they still thought you were valuable enough to give birth to you. And if females could just like understand that, that would be very helpful. And it's the same thing with men. For me, it's a huge red flag if a male does not have a good relationship with his mother and his father. Even if as long as he knows who his father is, because that's always questionable. But if he knows who his mother is and he doesn't have a good relationship with his mother, that is a huge red flag. Like a huge glazing red flag of stuff that you can't ignore, and a lot of people just they don't understand that those are warning signs. Like, they have to be, you have to be, if you can't make peace with the first male and female that you were introduced to in your whole life, I don't see how you can make peace with any male or female. And so separating people the way that they have is really like it's causing people not to really be able to tell who they're interacting. We've lost the art of social credit. Like, it doesn't even exist anymore, and they're trying to break social credit with this whole digital thing. But that's not where real social credit is. Real social credit is when you can talk to that person's mother or their father or their longtime friends and see, have this person always been like this? Do they change every 5 seconds? That kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that it really matters. And so one thing I will say is, at least back in the day, they did have that right. If met somebody at a sock hop or whatever, and they were around a certain group of people, and you knew, oh, those group of people, they come from a good setting, this and that, they'll probably be okay. That's pretty much accurate, because people would not spend time with others that didn't match your frequency. But today, especially with the internet, you really can't tell who matches your frequency if you never actually speak to them, if you don't see them in person. I've met most of the people I know on the internet. I've met in person. I just do. I've always done that ever since I've been on the internet. And I'm one of those crazy people who's always meeting people online. That, matter of fact, in 2020, I went to it was my first visit to Florida when I was considering like actually moving, and I went to visit someone I met on the internet. I took my kids, we went to this lady's house for Friendsgiving. It wasn't Thanksgiving, it was Friendsgiving. we went to her house to visit her with her family and all of that. No problem. There was no issue. So I think, you have to be careful, in how you to select who you meet and when and where, of course. But I was also like 9 months pregnant at the time. I had no idea. So that was even more like crazy, the whole situation, and it worked out just fine. This is, I ended up making her my son's godmother because, like, how could I not? She was there, and we had a really good time at her house, and it was really the deciding factor for me, moving. And I feel like that's another thing. People can't be so afraid to meet people online, and it shouldn't just be about intercourse. Like, that's the whole thing. That is, there's way too much prostitution for people to understand what's real. I think that's another discussion for another day too. Because, good lord.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, there's at least how I see it as a man is, um, it's not about trying to teach women how to be, trying to tell them how to be, and even this topic that is so profound that we're discussing is not about trying to convince them of, oh, this is like the gender role and like this is like your role and whatnot. It's really about um becoming so powerful in terms of aligned energetically that it gets to a point where women cannot help but serve. And women have been so desperately trying to serve themselves that when they finally find a man worthy of serving, they just melt. And the thing that's happening in this reality is that there aren't many men worthy of serving. There's not many men worthy of receiving a woman in the way that you describe it because they just can't handle it. They have not they also have gone down the road of the misalignment. And so if the man is misaligned, but the woman is interested in being aligned, like, it's just not going to work out. And so one or the other has to give. And I think in this scenario, it's the man. Like the man, this is the man being the leader. He has to lead. If he's not ready, he's not going to be able to mold the woman to be able to provide for, in this scenario, like the pride. Because you look at the pride, what the head lion, he is the dominant one. Where are the dominant men? There's no dominant men. You just have people that are aggressive. You have boys that are aggressive. You
Right.
have boys that are very evil when it comes to how they express themselves with women. A dominant man is a man that has integrated his feminine and his masculine. That's at the end of the day, at least how I see it, is what a dominant man is. Is not someone that necessarily has to be loud or big muscles. Is a man that is grounded to be able to both energetically, psychically, physically protect their surrounding. And in this day and age, it's not even about the physical, it's about, can you protect from the attacks of the system.
Right.
And then lastly is just provide like the energy for woman or women to begin to work together to provide, to serve, to, because it's not even about, um as you said, it's not even about like the sexual dynamics. It's not even about the sex or the intimacy. It's about, can men get to a point where women find an oasis. They find a respite. They find a place to be empowered, to show vulnerability, to open up, to truly tap into both their feminine as well as their masculine. And because there's so few men, the women, when they do find a man that is able to do that, there's like a huge transformation that takes place. Now, whether it happens within months, years, however long it takes, like, it happens nonetheless. And I think that's what I'm excited and interested in kind of discovering with you is, okay, we delineate the gender roles, and then from there we piece together, how does a man get to that place where he deserves to be quote unquote served in this way? And how does a woman get to the place to be able to quote unquote provide? Because if those two are able to have a good delineation and guidance, just alone, they're going to be powerful. They don't even need to have another person on their side. Just alone, they're going to be powerful. And then once they come together, it's majestic.
Right. Well, let me introduce a concept that it just came to me. It's like, oh, I know what we're talking about. It's called hospitality. A lot people are unaware of what hospitality is, and this is something I grew up with because in my church we had a hospitality ministry, and my grandmother was in charge, and so I grew up learning about this concept. And hospitality applies to men and women. There are things that they do within the hospitality ministry, and then they have women that do things that they're supposed to do within the hospitality ministry. And so the women, when you engage in hospitality, your goal is to make the other person feel comfortable. And it's the same thing with a male. The goal for the men is to make the women feel comfortable. So, for example, like in the church setting, my grandmother and her sister, they would plan the menu out, they would cook the food. Oh my goodness. They would plan the menu out, they would cook the food, and they would serve it to the people. But the men had a role too. Like I mentioned, my grandmother didn't drive. So my grandfather had to scheduled a time to take her to the store. He had to help her get the items into the car and up to the church. Um, they had to set the tables up. They had to, when everything was done, make sure the trash went out. So there was a place for the men and what they had to do. And sometimes the men would serve if they were short a woman or for whatever reason. And some of the men they just like to serve. Some of the men they just like to cook. That was their thing. Like we had a guy at our church, and what his thing was hunting. So he would always cook like deer meat and just meats you never heard of or seen before. He would cook them and bring them, and that would be on as an option for people to have. And so there's places for everybody within the realm of hospitality. So I think that's what we really need to go into next time, and I'll have a chance to um, dig up some actual information and make a thread about it because I had totally forgotten about how I learned this. I was like, oh, right, it was the hospitality industry. It was literally serving people. It's like, it's nothing for me to serve anybody at this point because that's what you do. The goal is not to serve. The goal is to make the person feel comfortable. And so that whole concept has totally been removed from our society. It died with the silent generation. So they don't know. People don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Time flew. I didn't even realize we already
Yeah, I
passed an
was like, oh
hour.
my gosh, it's 10 o'clock. No, it's cool. I just don't want to hit any more mountains.
For sure. Yeah. Yes. I think so I think for next for Friday, yeah, I think going into hospitality, because for sure that's what I've been realizing when it comes to my connections with women is making them feel comfortable. Because if I'm able to
Right.
make, not even just women, obviously men too, but in this specific case for what we're talking about, is if I'm able to make women feel comfortable, they open up. And when they open up,
Yep.
she wants to serve. Now, I think serve has a weird connotation in our reality, but
It
she
does.
wants
Yeah.
to provide because she is
Right.
opening herself up to receive my energy. And as she's
Right.
receiving my energy, she is being empowered. And so, what does a woman that is being empowered energetically want to obviously do? She wants to provide because she is being so
Right.
nourished. She's being so fed and empowered that obviously, like, she feels a an importance to be able to show respect, to show gratitude, to show devotion.
Yep.
Um, so and obviously the same goes for in the other side where if a man feels comfortable with the woman, then he is willing to pour his energy into her because he knows that she's not going to misuse it. She's not going to just take it for granted. She's not going to abuse it. And so then now, like, that's the yin and the yang. The woman is receiving the man's energy, not extracting from him, so the man is able to now get into a over state of overflow. So she's receiving his energy, which is allowing her to be enlightened, empowered to do what she is being called to do. And then the man, in feeling comfortable with the woman, is able to continue to pour, is able to continue to pour into her, which is giving her the confidence to go out there and hunt, to go out there and basically take over the world with the man. I mean, it's you look at any situation when it goes to being out there, the woman always like the woman knows how to play it in almost like an instinctual way. Whereas the
Yep.
man needs like the training, the like he needs the training to happen in order to properly sell or in order to, and that's not to say that the woman also doesn't need the training, but it's like her ability to have like reality bent to her will is much more seamless than a man. And what we and how can why would we leave the woman in the house? Why would we hide her? Why would we take her away from her power? Instead, the man is supposed to exalt the woman. The man is supposed to empower her with his energy to such a degree that she shines. And she shines so bright that the physical reality can't do anything but provide, provide, and in providing, like, that's where the woman and the man are able to transform reality, basically almost at will.
Absolutely. Absolutely, every single time. And the rich and powerful know this. Again, why would Bezos get married on the Cancer new moon? Like, there's no, I mean, it didn't work, obviously. They're always doing rituals and they're always being rejected. But why do that? Why select that date? Why select that time? Why select that location? They're trying to maximize the energy into the relationship so that they can have reality but into their will. And if that is possible for the rich and powerful, it's possible for the poor and helpless too. If you have the understanding of how this energy works. And the way you described it is exactly right. The man is supposed to exalt to the woman because the woman is so bright. That, I mean, that's the benefit of being a solar. This is why you have to look at women, the sun as a solar goddess and not as a masculine entity. When you look at it as a feminine energy, then this again the story comes together. You this is this is like goes back to this whole thing I've been talking about with the full moon cycle, because one of the things I have been talking about is a cycle does not go from dark moon to dark moon like they counted, but from full moon to full moon. Why? Because in a full moon, the sun is in its full power and the moon is in its full power. They're both lit up. That's literally what a full moon is. And if you know like about the cycle of the full moon, that time period of full moon lasts 3 days. Like you can literally make the sun rise and your will, just you know, attract what it is that you're trying to happen. And it's just like almost instantaneously because when you're in your full energy, you draw in everything you need to be successful. It's when you're in, like, again, new moon energy, which is when you're building roots, and you do that what